want the facts. We got it here. It's hot, it's black. Come sit and sip black tea.
Welcome to episode 1, post-Trump, pre-Biden. America, where do we go from here? In this episode, we'll be talking to local politicians, community activists, even the mayor. And they'll all give their opinion on where this Biden-Harris administration will be going. So, sit back and let's spill some tea.
It's everybody versus racism.
Why do you say all lives matter when you care more about the money stolen from a store than a man stolen from his daughter?
The events of yesterday also reverberated around the globe.
I understand for many of my black brothers out here that it's hard for us to come up and talk right now because we are angry. It's hard for us to come up here and speak in front of all of you because we have so much anger inside of us, and it is hard to articulate this.
Preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States.
the Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr.
2020 was a crazy year, but it's nothing black folks haven't dealt with. From protests to lockdowns, so much has happened. Some people are just now waking up. And after the insurrection of 2021, it's time we sit down as a community and see where we fit in within all of this. With one president gone and a new one in, oh boy, this tea should be scalding.
We were approaching our deepest divisions in the country where people were just incredibly divided, and that division generated so much distrust that we have ended up in a situation where you have white nationalist insurrectionists attacking the legislature at the command of the President of the United States.
So when you hear that term, make America great again, do you feel like we ever were, and are we in any way heading towards a state like that?
It depends on what part of America you want to say has been or is great.
Choosing a political leader who is the epitome of negatives and policies that are generally not as positive for you, speech and rhetoric, is a statement of almost a plantation mentality. That was very disappointing. I also thought that Donald Trump, for some reason, represented a white savior somehow.
And welcome to our segment, What's the Tea? Where you, the community, ask me the tough and sometimes uncomfortable questions. So, let me pour some tea before I get into these, because I know they might be a little crazy. Dear T, who will we call if we defund the police? So I guess you mean if we abolish the police, who we call? Because when we talk about defunding the police, we're just talking about reallocating funds to other services and other avenues, so that way the police officers do not have to answer all of the calls that they are answering. For example, the 302 mental health warrant. So if we defund the police and use that money towards mental health experts actually answering these calls, we can avoid situations like Osaze Osaki. All right, let's see. Dear T, why Black Lives Matter and not all lives matter? Is that fair? Well, whoever you are, I would pose the question that in the Constitution, when they wrote that all men were created equal, was that actually fair then? Because we were still enslaved at that point. When you say the word all and you ignore the word black, we do understand, and everyone agrees, that all lives do matter. But systematically and historically, Black lives have been proven not to matter. We're the ones that's being gunned down in the street. So right now, in case you guys don't know who we're talking about, we're saying Black lives matter. And all lives can't matter until Black lives matter. Dear T, can I be an ally and still be racist? The short answer is no. You can't align with someone if you believe that you are superior to them in some form or some fashion. Now, you can be an ally and still have bias and prejudice and be working out your white privilege and understanding what that actually means. But if you are racist, I wouldn't consider you an ally. But there are steps that you can take to become not only non-racist, but anti-racist and be a true ally. We've all heard the saying that Sunday is the most segregated day of the week.
We welcome you. We set the table for all. Bring your blessings and burdens, your joys, your sorrows, your laughter and tears, and come in.
Love is stronger than the hatred in the world. That love softens the rough edges, the way water softens a rough rock.
State College is our sanctuary. State College is our home.
The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "It is appalling that the most segregated hour of Christian America is 11 o'clock on Sunday morning." Here in Center County, I've noticed something similar. From the church's disconnect with female pastors to the unfamiliarity of the Black spiritual leaders in this area. We could be doing better to get connected with our spiritual neighbors. Stick around. There's enough tea to share.
There is certain things that you will experience in the Black church that you will not experience in the white church.
So would you agree that there is racism within churches and mosques and other facilities that are out here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, most definitely. The problem of racism, we have to understand, it's a part of the system. It is in every nuanced space of American reality.
I don't see it. There is racial awareness, but I wouldn't call it racism.
Dear T, can I touch your hair? Hell no. You cannot touch my hair. And you shouldn't reach and touch any Black person's hair. Look, guys. I know our hair looks interesting. It's amazing. Sometimes it changes every other week. But your hands are not supposed to be in it in any form or fashion. We are not pet dogs, and we are not an art exhibit. Do not put your hands in anybody's hair, especially not a Black woman's hair. You risk getting slapped, okay? Just flat out. Please do not touch our hair. Okay, let's see. Dear T, why is saying I'm colorblind bad when I am trying to be an ally? You know what? This is a really good question. When you say you are colorblind or you don't see color, what are you really saying? Well, what you're telling me is you don't see me because I am Black and I am proud to be Black and I'm proud of my color. So when you say that you are colorblind or you don't see color, what color are you making me so you can have a civilized conversation? What color am I to you other than the color that I am? Saying that you're colorblind is ignoring the differences in the beauty of those who you're speaking with. That's why it's an issue by saying you're colorblind. I appreciate you being an ally, but learning the different terminology and phrases to use when trying to come into these spaces is a key. So that's why saying you're colorblind or you don't see color is an issue. In 1967, Loving versus Virginia was a landmark achievement in the fight for interracial relationships and marriages in the United States. Now, Americans are with individuals that they love, never second-guessing someone because of the color of their skin. Despite the fact this country has seen a lot of change, I know State College could engage with this topic a little more. You see, I happen to know that Happy Valley isn't too happy these days. From Black codes to the one-drop rule, I think we could all get acquainted with those in our community who understand and who have experienced the dynamics of colorism a little better. As a mother myself, I wanted to hear from Melanie Morrison, a mother and an activist from Mill High. She has a story worth listening to.
We've had experiences where a girl called my son in 6th grade, called him a monkey. And growing up the way that I did, I think I still had delusions about how things were going to be. Maybe a little bit more Pollyanna. I'm certainly not as much of an idealist. Now I'm more of a realist. And it hits different when it's you yourself and your friends versus when it's your child. My hope is that in the future, white women who do have Black children will educate themselves more for the sake of their children. Because I think that had I not been as much of an idealist when they were younger, I would have been better prepared for all of the stuff that I would be dealing with in regards to advocating for them. A little less shocked about some things. I think I gave people too much credit, and the world showed me that I should not have.
Dear T, no question, just wanted to say, Breonna Taylor. In 1960, federal marshals had to shield Ruby Bridges from angry crowds as she enrolled in school in New Orleans, Louisiana. In 1968, the Supreme Court ordered states to dismantle segregated school systems, roots and branch. 1971, the court approved busing and other tools as appropriate remedies to overcome the role of residential segregation and perpetuating racially segregated schools. Fast forward to today, and America has seen a boom in Black excellence and Black educators. The Ruby Bridges Foundation was established to promote tolerance and create change through education. And lastly, a young girl from California who had to ride those same buses is now our Madam Vice President. Today's generation of students and teachers have so much wisdom to give. There's always time to learn. And we're all students of life, right? But we still have a long way to go from here to combat racism. I hope you like your tea hot. What obstacles do you feel, if you faced any, at Penn State that your other classmates or colleagues won't face or haven't faced?
You know, these current times really put into perspective the things that I have to think about compared to other people, that extra tax, that added on tax. Most of my life, I didn't really pay attention to the things that were going on around me, which is why I feel like I have been able to cope and make it so far where I am without being broken down by the world around me. A lot of racist things, I tend to just let it go over my head, or I don't pay it any attention at all, or, you know, it doesn't get time of day in my brain. But of recently, I have opened myself up a little bit more. I've become a little bit more vulnerable to what's going on in the world around me.
After a great conversation with Letitia, I met with my friend, Jeff Landers Nolan.
If you had asked me at the time, when I was 16, 17, going through the school system, what racism did I see day to day around me, I would have had some trouble answering that, because it's not something I looked for, not something I necessarily noticed. My friend groups didn't include a ton of people of color, so, you know, I wasn't seeing it, and therefore, I think this is where the curriculum part comes in. It can be easy to think like, well, that's a past thing. I remember very distinctly getting the sense, as I was growing up and learning about the civil rights movement, for example, the distinct the distinct sense that this is a past thing, and not just that it was a past thing, but that this was a mistake. These were errors, this was ignorance, that, well, yes, there were people who were bad and wrong, but we know better now, and that's not what we're doing now. And, you know, now that we've learned and have decided to stop doing these things, not been made to, you know, that just doesn't happen anymore, right? I never heard the term redlining until I was in my 20s. And we never talked about how that still continues in a more subtle fashion. So the State College Area School District, in my personal experience, was great. I thought it was wonderful. But the sense I got through the curriculum, they weren't erasing slavery, right? They didn't eliminate it from the textbooks. They didn't, you know, yes, I heard a little bit about the Trail of Tears and things like that. They didn't omit things in that large a way. I never had a sense that there was a struggle, broadly speaking. He taught us about the incredible amount of violence around labor unions in the late 19th century. Never heard a bit about that beforehand. You know, the people were literally dying for the right to collectively bargain. And these things are related. You know, class justice, racial justice, being given the sense of, look at all this great stuff that happened and now we're in a good place, leaves you with a sense of complacency. And that was, I think, the biggest thing that I felt was implanted in me, you know, through the way I learned about this stuff.
Right now, we are here in the name of love, but not any kind of love. The kind of love that imbues a sense of purpose and duty. The kind of love that doesn't ask nicely, but demands justice.
I can't breathe became a national slogan for the distress caused by rampant racist and destructive practices perpetrated by the police officers throughout the nation. Tonight, we will discuss what afflicts us all: police brutality, white privilege, racism, bridging the gap, and the local shooting of one of our own. This tea has been brewing for a long time. It's time to take it off the stove and let it simmer. The killing of Osaze hit the community hard. It was proof that Happy Valley wasn't so happy. We were able to sit down with some residents and community members to see how they felt and reacted to the shooting of Osaze Osagi here in their very own backyard.
Black lives matter because they do, period.
This happened here, and it's not just the them problem, it's the us problem too.
I could have easily been him on 1,000 occasions.
You know, it's a no-brainer. Of course Black Lives Matter.
Elaine Meter Wilgus, who is the owner of Webster's Bookstore and Cafe and is a personal friend, is an avid advocate for the positive change in Center County and held the initial meeting in her establishment, sparking the creation of the 320 Coalition.
I mean, I went to a lot of the protests. It was heartbreaking. When we look at, you know, these people whose lives were just taken away, and it suddenly becomes a point of debate or, you know, you know, you're a mother, I'm a mother. I mean, you can't separate the tragedy and heartbreak. I believe it was the week after, or several days or several weeks after Osaze was shot. And there was a gentleman experiencing a mental health, situation in his home. He was an older white gentleman, and he was armed to the teeth. He had guns pointed out the window. And they spent hours and hours talking to that guy. So it's very hard for me not to see that there is an absolute difference in the way that the police deal with a white body versus a black body.
They bust up all the windows in that joint. Was there kids in there? Somebody just hopped out with a baby. Come on.
The tragic death of Osaze Osagi left a huge impact on the larger community of Center County. The 320 Coalition is a result of that impact. As a member of the coalition, I deemed it important to sit down with some of the founding and new members who expressed to us what the death of Osaze means to them and why we fight for justice.
I would say fighting for Osaze, we really felt, I really began to see, oftentimes they're like, oh, my family's like, what are you doing out there in like redneck Pennsylvania? Why in the world would you be in a place like that? And I didn't really feel it until we started fighting for Osaze.
After attending the summer protest in honor of George Floyd, I was fortunate enough to run into the 320 Coalition. Not only did they welcome me with open arms, but they let my Black voice be heard. They have stood beside me and have even encouraged me to run for local office. The work that they have put into this community will live in the history of State College forever.